The Philadelphia Eagles are officially back in the spotlight, and after a full week soaking in everything that went down in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, it is impossible not to feel the energy building toward the draft. Being on the ground, watching these prospects move, talk, compete, and test side by side gives a completely different perspective than just studying tape. Now, with fresh intel and a clearer picture of how the board could fall, it is time to reshape the vision for how this draft might unfold for Philadelphia. Holding the 23rd overall pick in the first round, the Eagles find themselves in a fascinating position. There are flashy names on the board, skilled players who grab headlines. But if we know anything about Howie Roseman and the philosophy inside that building, it is this: games are still won and lost in the trenches. That is why an offensive tackle like Monroe Freeling out of Georgia makes so much sense here. At 6'7" and roughly 316 pounds, he looks the part the moment he steps onto the field. Long arms, broad frame, natural athleticism. He is built in a lab to play tackle in the National Football League. Freeling is not a finished product, and that is part of the intrigue. He has just 16 career starts, so the experience is limited, and there were stretches this past season where his play ran hot and cold. But when he was on, he was dominant. His pass protection improved steadily throughout the year, and the flashes are what get decision-makers excited. At the Combine, he backed that upside with elite testing numbers. A relative athletic score that nearly touches perfection tells you this is not just a big body. This is a rare mover. A vertical jump in the low 30-inch range at his height and weight is absurd. Add in a broad jump over 10 feet and a 40-yard dash under 5 seconds, and you are looking at a tackle who can fly in space. In a modern offensive system that asks linemen to pull, climb, and block at the second level, that mobility is gold. On film, his pass blocking grade stood out, particularly when you consider the level of competition he faced in the Southeastern Conference. He allowed very few clean hits on the quarterback and showed poise against top-tier edge rushers. The run blocking needs refinement, and he will have to add more functional strength, but in Philadelphia, he would not be rushed into the lineup. Learning behind veterans, potentially grooming as a long-term successor at right tackle, is exactly the type of forward-thinking move this front office has made before. When the second round rolls around at pick number 54, attention shifts to the defensive side of the ball, specifically the edge rusher position. Depth there is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Malachi Lawrence from the University of Central Florida feels like the type of high upside swing this team covets. Standing 6'4" and weighing in around 253 pounds, he carries prototypical size for an edge defender. What separates him is the explosiveness. His first step off the line is violent and sudden, putting offensive tackles on their heels immediately. Lawrence does not rely on one signature move. He counters, spins, swipes, and strings together pass rush plans that show real development. Over the last 2 seasons, he produced steady pressure numbers, stacking sacks, and living in opposing backfields. His tackle for loss production also jumps off the page, signaling that he is not just chasing quarterbacks, but disrupting plays in general. At the Combine, his athletic profile popped once again, with a 40-yard dash in the mid-4.5s and explosive jumps that confirm the burst you see on tape. There is room for growth against the run, especially in terms of anchoring and setting a firm edge against bigger tackles. But in a scheme that values speed and versatility up front, he projects as a natural fit. With only a couple of young edge rushers currently under contract, adding a dynamic, high-motor defender like Lawrence would not just fill a need, it would reinforce the identity of this defense. Moving into the third round at pick number 68, the conversation shifts to the skill positions. Even if the current wide receiver room remains largely intact, there is always value in adding size and explosiveness on the outside. Jacoby Lane from Southern California brings exactly that. At 6'4" and around 200 pounds, he offers a long, rangy frame that defensive backs struggle to match up with. Watching him during positional drills, especially in the gauntlet, was eye-opening. He plucked passes away from his body, adjusted smoothly to off-target throws, and looked comfortable catching at full speed. Lane glides when he runs. There is no wasted motion, and when he opens up, he eats ground in a hurry. A 40-yard dash in the 4.4 range at his size confirms the vertical threat ability. Beyond the speed, It is his ball tracking and body control that make him intriguing. He understands how to use his frame in the red zone, boxing out defenders and attacking the ball at its highest point. Over the past 2 seasons, he produced solid numbers, averaging strong yardage per catch and finding the end zone consistently. The drop totals are something that will be scrutinized, but the overall trajectory of his development points upward. Philadelphia has always valued athletic metrics, and Lane checked those boxes as well with an elite relative athletic score and explosive jumping numbers. In an offense that thrives on spacing and taking calculated shots downfield, inserting a big, fast target who can stretch coverage would add another layer of stress for opposing defenses. As the third round continues at pick number 98, tight end becomes a compelling conversation. Sam Roush out of Stanford embodies the traditional, balanced tight end profile that this organization appreciates. At 6'6" and roughly 267 pounds, he is built to play inline, attach to the formation, and contribute immediately in the run game. What stands out is that he is not just a blocker masquerading as a receiver. He moves fluidly for his size and shows reliable hands in traffic. His production at Stanford will not overwhelm you in terms of touchdowns, but context matters. He was a steady presence in the passing game, hauling in close to 50 receptions and proving he can work the middle of the field. After the catch, he is tougher than expected, churning through arm tackles and falling forward for extra yards. His athletic testing nearly maxed out the charts, with explosive jumps and a 40-yard dash in the high 4.7s at almost 270 pounds, which is remarkable. Roush fits the mold of a tight end who can stay on the field for every situation. In the run game, he seals edges and climbs to linebackers. In play action, he slips behind defenders and presents a big, friendly target. For a team that values versatility and physicality at the position, he checks critical boxes and would add depth with long-term upside. Through these first few selections, the theme becomes clear. Build through the trenches, add explosive athletes, and continue stacking talent at premium positions. With the draft approaching quickly and free agency around the corner, the foundation for the next chapter of Eagles football is taking shape, and the pieces being connected here could redefine the roster in a significant way. As the draft moves into the middle rounds, this is where championship rosters are quietly strengthened. The spotlight fades a little, the television graphics are not as flashy, but the teams that consistently contend are the ones that find real contributors on day 3. For Philadelphia, that means continuing to stack athletic, instinctive players who fit specific roles while still offering developmental upside. At the safety position, Bud Clark from Texas Christian University feels like one of those classic value picks who outplays his draft slot. Measuring around 6'2" and weighing close to 190 pounds, he is not the most imposing safety in terms of bulk, but what he brings to the secondary is undeniable production. 15 interceptions over the course of his college career is not random. That kind of ball production speaks to instincts, anticipation, and timing. He understands route concepts, reads quarterbacks well, and consistently puts himself in position to make plays on the football. What makes Clark even more intriguing is the versatility he displayed throughout his final season. He logged significant snaps aligned deep, in the slot, and even down in the box. That kind of deployment shows trust from his coaching staff and reveals a skill set that can translate into multiple packages at the professional level. He is not afraid to trigger downhill against the run, even if he occasionally gives up size to bigger ball carriers. His testing numbers reinforced what the tape already showed. A 40-yard dash in the low 4.4 range confirmed the range, while his jumps highlighted lower body explosiveness. In a defense that values interchangeable safeties who can disguise coverage pre-snap, Clark's intelligence and quick twitch movement could carve out an early role. Turning to the cornerback position, Julian Neal out of Arkansas represents another swing on athletic upside. Corner is a position where traits matter, and Neal put together a strong showing in Indianapolis that boosted his stock. His long speed was evident in drills, and his fluid hips allowed him to transition smoothly in coverage. He plays with competitive toughness at the line of scrimmage, willing to disrupt timing routes and challenge receivers physically. While his technique still needs refinement, especially in terms of hand placement and consistency in off coverage, the raw tools are there. Philadelphia has never shied away from developing defensive backs with strong athletic profiles. Neil fits that blueprint. With proper coaching and patience, he could develop into a reliable rotational corner who contributes on special teams early while refining his coverage skills behind the scenes. The middle rounds are perfect for that kind of investment. High traits, high ceiling, manageable risk. On the interior of the offensive line, Parker Brailsford from Alabama brings a different type of appeal. He may not carry the towering frame of a tackle, but its center and guard, leverage, intelligence, and toughness often outweigh sheer size. Brailsford has experience in a pro-style system, handling complex protection calls and facing elite defensive fronts in the Southeastern Conference. That matters. Playing in that environment accelerates development and exposes weaknesses quickly. What stands out about Brailsford is his balance and hand placement. He keeps a strong base, rarely overextends, and shows good awareness when picking up twists and stunts. His versatility to potentially play both center and guard increases his value significantly. For a team that prioritizes depth along the offensive line, adding a technically sound interior lineman who can step in during injuries is critical. Championships are not only about star power, they're about surviving the grind of a long season, and players like Brailsford help ensure stability when adversity hits. Then there is one of the most fascinating prospects in this entire class, quarterback Jalen Green from Arkansas. At 6'6" and approximately 227 pounds, he does not look like a traditional dual-threat quarterback. He looks like a prototype modern weapon. When he stepped onto the field for testing, jaws dropped. A vertical jump surpassing 40 inches at that size is extraordinary. A broad jump stretching beyond 11 feet further emphasized his explosive lower body strength. Then he ran a 40-yard dash in the 4.3 range, a time that would make many wide receivers proud. Athletically, he is off the charts. The relative athletic score nearly maxes out, placing him among the most gifted quarterbacks to ever go through the combine. But the story does not end with testing numbers. On film, the rawness is clear. His mechanics fluctuate, his accuracy can waver, and he is still learning to consistently process complex defensive looks. There are moments where he locks onto his first read and hesitates when it is taken away. That developmental curve is real. However, in the right environment, that raw clay can be molded. Philadelphia has the luxury of patience at the quarterback position. There is no immediate pressure for Green to step onto the field and carry the offense. That allows him to sit, learn, refine his footwork, and adjust to the speed of professional defenses. His arm strength is legitimate. He can drive the ball outside the numbers and attack vertically with ease. Combine that with elite mobility, and you have a player who can stress defenses horizontally and vertically. Imagine specific packages designed to maximize his athleticism. Designed quarterback runs, run-pass option concepts. Creative red zone looks where his size becomes a problem for defenders near the goal line. Even if he begins his career as a developmental backup, the upside is undeniable. In today's National Football League, investing in quarterback talent is never a wasted move, especially when the physical tools are this rare. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments, and let's talk birds. Whispers are racing through league circles that BOYE MAFE could be on the verge of a seismic move, with the Philadelphia Eagles emerging as the quiet but determined suitor. Nothing is signed in ink, sources insist, yet the smoke is thick enough to make rival front offices uneasy. The idea of MAFE in midnight green feels less like fantasy and more like a calculated strike, the kind that reshapes game plans before the opening kickoff is even imagined. The Eagles' defensive identity has long thrived on pressure, waves of edge speed, and relentless depth, and adding a pass rusher of MAFE's profile would tilt that philosophy toward the extreme. Coaches around the league privately wonder how protections would hold if another explosive, power-meets-burst threat were rotated into an already unforgiving front. Those close to the situation frame the talks as exploratory, but optimism hums beneath the surface. MAFE's arc has been defined by disruption. First-step quickness, leverage, and a knack for turning chaos into sacks, and the Eagles are known for maximizing exactly that blend. The rumor suggests a vision where MAFE is unleashed situationally at first, then gradually empowered as a centerpiece, forcing quarterbacks to speed up their internal clocks. Even the mere possibility has coordinators scribbling contingency notes, aware that pressure up front compresses the entire field and exposes offenses to mistakes. Across the conference, the reaction is telling. Executives concede, off the record, that such a move would ripple through the NFC, altering matchups and recalibrating expectations. It's not just about sacks. It's about the psychological tax of knowing the pocket may not survive the snap. For now, it remains a rumor. No announcements, no confirmations. Yet the league has learned to respect the Eagles when they move in silence. If this speculation hardens into reality, the pass rush conversation might need a rewrite, and the balance of power could feel just a little less stable. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.